Hello again. Off the top, who is right, who is wrong? 3 topics, 2 minutes each. Anything goes. There are no taboos. Ready or not, here they come. Due to unsafe conditions in state prisons and by court order, they're opening the doors and letting some of the prisoners out. These are considered low-level offenders, but the argument could be made, if you're in prison, you're there for a reason, no matter what level of offense you commit. In any event, the mayor of Los Angeles says because the prisoners are coming, the city needs more police, at least 150 more police officers, and says that the state screwed up, so the state should pay for them. Critics like the LA Times suggest Villaraigosa is fear-mongering, scaring the public for political purposes. Our contributors, the editor of Turner's Two Cents, Cameron Turner, and radio talk show host and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Leo, I'll start with you. Is the mayor right, or is he creating a panic?
He's trying to create panic, Fred. This is Halloween. This is the boogeyman approach. Villaraigosa is a termed-out mayor. He is trying to raise arguments in case he runs for office in the future. This request for 150 additional police officers at the state expense is dead on arrival. He has no intention on doing this. He is trying to grandstand. To me, it's very, very disingenuous. Because, first of all, these low-level offenders usually are victimless crimes. So if he's trying to scare the public, he's talking about people primarily on drug use charges, low-level charges.
You know what? But let's not start this. Let's not start. At the very least, let's not start this low-level offenders or on drug charges. You know what? If you're in jail, you're there for a reason, Leo.
You're there.
You're there for a reason. You're an attorney. You know that as well as I do.
Fred, the key here is that people are put in jail for a lot of wrong reasons. Prison guards love more prisoners. They love to build prisons. But what I'm saying is it costs a lot of money to keep prisoners incarcerated. But more importantly, Fred, the U.S. Supreme Court said these prisons are overcrowded and they're unsafe and people have to be released.
All right, Cameron, now Leo says that the mayor's taking the boogeyman approach. Do you agree?
Well, first of all, we have to be clear about what's happening. We're not talking about a bunch of inmates just being released out onto the streets. We're talking about...
Yes, we are.
We're talking about people who ordinarily would have been sent to state prison now being incarcerated in county jail. That's the issue about the low-level offenders. That's what's going to happen. So that's the issue, first of all. But it isn't really accurate to talk about this wave of inmates hitting the streets. We're talking about people being put in county jail as opposed to prison. As for the parolees, well, under the old law...
Yeah, but then the county jail is going to let people out. Somebody's getting out, Cameron. Somebody's getting out.
I'm saying that what this law accommodates for, but as I say, with respect to parolees, parolees currently are returned to local communities. We're not talking about new people. We're talking about folks who get out on parole anyway. Now they'll be under county supervision as opposed to state supervision.
All right, let's move on. Now, I don't know if you own a gun. I don't know if you drink. I do know if you drink, it's not illegal for you to own a gun. I also know that if you smoke pot, even medical marijuana, it is illegal for you to own a gun. Federal law says it's illegal to possess a firearm if you use a controlled substance, and medical marijuana is considered a controlled substance. Now, you don't want anybody loaded walking around with a gun. Then again, you don't want anybody drunk walking around with a gun. Gun rights advocates and medical marijuana advocates say this policy is a violation of the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Cameron, if you use medical marijuana, should you be allowed to have a gun?
Well, yes, you should. Fred, this law is a blatant double standard that draws a phony distinction between the presumed dangers of marijuana versus alcohol. Now, of course, we all know that there are many, many, many more deaths and injuries every year here in California and across the country related to alcohol than marijuana. So laws like this aren't really about safety. They are, however, about our entrenched social standards. Alcohol is the socially acceptable, legal, mainstream drug, and marijuana is not. That's why we have this double standard. Certainly, someone who is under the influence should not be allowed to use a weapon, even in the controlled confines of the shooting range.
Right.
But gun ownership is an altogether different matter, and people should not be prohibited from owning a firearm simply because they like to take a drink or take a toke every now and again.
What do you think, Leo?
Cameron, you're 100% wrong. Medical marijuana is a state creation. Marijuana is a drug. It's regulated by the federal government. And for the state to create this, the state of California to create this carved out exception of medical marijuana somehow allows people to use marijuana and to carry a gun. I got a problem with this 100%. And because we sanction drinking in this state doesn't mean that somehow the use of marijuana is somehow an excuse for people to own a gun. I think that having a gun, having drugs, or such as marijuana is wrong.
So you can't have a gun at your house even if you don't. I mean,
look,
the issue is
the state of California does not have the right to create marijuana as an exception. Marijuana is it's been regulated by the federal government. It's a drug. It's still a drug, regardless of what the state of California does. So there is a problem with people in the state of California having marijuana and having a gun.
But that's the law, right? And right now there is an exception for medical marijuana, and
no,
telling someone that they
as far as the state is concerned,
telling somebody they cannot own a gun is different from saying they cannot use a gun while they're under the influence.
No, the federal government is saying if you're going to take marijuana, you cannot be under the influence of a drug, of marijuana, and own a gun. That's legal. That's
Cameron,
correct.
You want the last word for 10 seconds, or you're done on this one? Cameron, you want the last word?
He's done.
I think there's a difference between using and owning, and I think that it's a double standard. I think if you're going to ban anything, ban the alcohol drinkers, because that's clearly demonstrably a more dangerous substance. But as I say, I think there's a difference between owning and using.
Here we go. If someone sneezes, you hope they cover their face, and then you say, God bless you, or bless you. Why? Well, in the old days when somebody sneezed, the thought was you were dispelling evil spirits out of your body. Then bless you or God bless you became commonplace. Well, it's not common anymore in one school classroom. Steve Kukovich of William C. Wood High School in Vacaville will not allow it anymore in his class. He says saying God bless you or bless you when someone sneezes is disruptive, and it takes time away from class. He actually docked his students' scores if they said it. Parents went bananas. Many thought his rule was anti-religious. All thought it was ludicrous to deduct scores. Well, he no longer does that. But still, when someone sneezes, no bless you, no God bless you. Is the teacher right here? Is saying bless you disruptive? Or should the school deduct points from his score, Leo?
From his score. Every time I want to think about retiring from civil rights law, you get idiot cases like this, Fred. What gives this teacher the right to tell students they can't say God bless you? This is the state, the schools, trying to regulate speech, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, everything that we work for, First Amendment, everything that I try to fight for as a civil rights attorney. It makes no sense. If this school is listening to me, if you students call me, I want to work with you. I want to get rid of this teacher. He's wrong.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about this, Leo?
Tell me.
One of the school board members up there said the teacher is in charge of their classroom. If he said you can't say it, you can't say it.
No, and not only do we have to go after that teacher, we got to go after that school district board member, too. Fred, you can't regulate speech, especially when it's the government. The school teacher represents the government. It's ridiculous.
Cameron, do you agree with Leo?
Yes.
Well, Leo was right that the government can't regulate speech in this area, but this is not about speech. Let's look at the specifics of what happened here. Basically, this is not about religious freedom or even religious expression. This is about a bunch of middle school kids pranking their teacher.
That's your opinion.
Students admitted it in the newspaper and on television. One kid would sneeze. 5 other ones would say, God bless you. They were pranking the teacher.
That is their right to say, God bless you. What's the problem with that?
He was not coming, Leo, you're missing the point, brother. He wasn't coming down on it because the words God bless you. He was coming down on them because they were using this as a way to be disruptive. If they had said something else, he would have done it.
But is it not fair to say that he instituted this prior to him announcing they were disruptive? And
no, there is no evidence of that.
Didn't they continue this to mock him?
There was no policy. There was no. Where's the evidence that there was a policy against? Would he stand up in the first day of school and say, "Don't say God bless you in my class"? No, he did not.
Point here is
this was a reaction to these kids acting out the way middle school kids do. So he said, "Don't say it again."
You cannot regulate that speech. You cannot use that. And for you to make that assumption, that means every kid who says God bless.
I'm not making an assumption. I'm telling you about what we have, what we all know, based on what the teacher, the superintendent, and the students in that classroom said. There was no policy against that word. The teacher was trying to control some out-of-control kids who were having fun punking the teacher.
Fred,
That's
final
all
statement.
that's here.
I guarantee you, final statement. on this particular issue, the school cannot regulate speech on these words. They lose.
All right. And with that, to both I say, God bless you. Leo and Cameron, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.